Hello, welcome to this video. My name is Rhianna and today I want to talk about every book that I read in the year of 2024. So I recently made a video about my top 10 favourite books of the year, but today I thought I'd go through every book that I read in 2024 and talk a little bit about them. Because when I made the top 10 books of the year video, I talked for a long time. I've tried to make this video shorter by writing 1 or 2 sentences about every book that I read. So I thought I would just go through, read each sentence that I made about each book, and also once I've filmed this I'm going to re-edit the video so that the books are in order from my least favourite to my favourite. So that is the plan, so let's get started. The Cockroach by Ian McEwan. A politician turns into a cockroach, an interesting idea, but it didn't really land for me. Treacle Walker by Alan Garner. An Alice in Wonderland type fairy tale which feels a bit like a fever dream. Lapfona by Otesha Moshfegh. A fictional medieval setting where bad things happen again and again and again. The Strange Case by Derek Kolstad. An Audible original retelling of the novel Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's a very fast-paced and engaging thriller with mainly dialogue and no descriptions. Penance by Eliza Clark. 3 young girls commit a murder in this fictional non-fiction book about the ethics of true crime. The Impatient by Djali Amadou Amal and translated by Emma Ramadan. A difficult and important story about 3 women in Cameroon and their experience with the oppressive regime against women that exists there. Pretend I'm Dead by Jen Began. A strange sort of episodic book about a woman named Mona. In the first part of the novel, she falls in love with a drug addict and they have quite a strange and interesting relationship. The Sleeper and the Spindle by Neil Gaiman. A short fairy tale which gives you a burst of fantasy. Western Lane by Chetna Maru. This book is about squash, but at the same time isn't really about squash at all, it's about grief. Strange Weather in Tokyo by Hiromi Kawakami. About a relationship with a woman and an old man who used to be her teacher. It captures conversation really well. Educated by Tara Westover. A non-fiction book about growing up in rural Idaho with a family who don't believe in the modern world. Swimming in the Dark by Tomasz Jadrowski. Set in 1980s Poland, it is the story of first love, sexuality, and political divides. The Vegetarian by Han Kang. 3 different perspectives on one woman's mental illness, which show that we never really know anyone, and often people have misconceptions about mental health. We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. A strange book about a strange girl and a strange family who live in a house. I think it would make a great Tim Burton film. Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. Are we aliens? And does anything make sense? Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Batsterica. Set in a disturbing fictional future, animals can no longer be eaten, so humans have started eating other humans. It's a very disturbing book which leaves you feeling a bit sick, but it has a lot to say. Eileen by Otesha Moshfegh. A young woman works at a male prison and becomes quite obsessed with another woman who works there. A strange literary thriller. Death in Her Hands by Otesha Moshfegh. About a woman who finds a note while out walking her dog and becomes more and more obsessed with what this note means. Luster by Raven Lalani. A young woman tries to navigate her 20s with unusual, complex and entertaining outcomes. Jazz by Toni Morrison. At a young girl's funeral, a woman attacks a corpse. She is the wife of the man who was seeing the dead girl. It's a novel about love and obsession with a very interesting writing style, kind of like jazz. The Water Cure by Sophie McIntosh. On an island, 3 sisters live with their mother, but why are they there and what is going on in the outside world? The mystery of this keeps the novel engaging. I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. A non-fiction book about a child star and her difficult relationship with her mother. Bunny by Mona Awad. A girl at university makes friends with a cult who have some very, very odd behaviours. Written on the Body by Jeanette Winterson. I read this whole book thinking that the protagonist was a woman, and then when I finished the book I discovered that we are never told the gender of the protagonist, and I realised when you switch the gender of the protagonist, the whole book kind of changes. Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. A young woman named Tess is oppressed by the conventions of the time, leading to a tragic end. Sula by Toni Morrison. Nell and Sula are friends who take different paths in life with themes of identity, friendship, and race. The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. A classic short story which I've included on this list as it felt as impactful as if it had been a novel. Reckitt by Toni Morrison. This is another short story which I've put on this list because it feels so impactful that it almost feels like a novel. It's about two childhood friends and the different points that they meet throughout their life, one of which is black and one of which is white, but we don't know which. My Name is Lucy Barton by Elizabeth Strout. Lucy recounts her life while in hospital. It has naturalistic prose that examines memory and childhood and relationships. Autumn by Ali Smith, about a woman named Elizabeth and about her friendship with an older neighbour. It has themes of time, friendship, and also Brexit. The Remains of the Day by Kesho Ishiguro. An old man who used to be a butler looks back on his life and the decision she made while travelling around the West Country in England. About regret and finding meaning at the end of your life. Shaggy Bane by Douglas Stewart. About Shaggy, a young boy who grows up in 1980s Glasgow, which has such beautiful prose. You can take so many quotes from this book. 1984 by George Orwell, which I think is one of the best books ever written because of how it kind of predicted the future. Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. Irina finds and takes photos of men and is also a little bit insane. Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. A father battles with this question: should I say nothing and stay safe, or should I say something and risk the lives of myself and my family? Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. About a woman who works in a convenience store. Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson. A beautiful relationship between two people in modern day London. The novel looks at the vulnerabilities of falling in love. Prophet Song by Paul Lynch. A novel which made me shake. It is about a mother as she tries to keep her family together while her country slowly descends further and further into despair. Circe by Madeline Miller. The tale of the goddess Circe, which is a fantastic example of how to write a character study novel. 10 minutes and 38 seconds in this strange world by Elif Shafak. In the last 10 minutes and 38 seconds of Layla's life, she remembers her important moments. A novel that is full of life and meaning. All Fours by Miranda July. A woman decides to drive from LA to New York, and on the way she stops off at a motel, and in an attempt to exert her free will, instead of continuing on her way to New York, she decides to try and renovate the motel room. It's quite a funny, strange tale about being alive. Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. A tale about two brothers named Peter and Ivan. It's about their relationship with each other and also their romantic relationships, and it's also about them dealing with the grief of their father. The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. One of the most impressive books I've ever read. It challenged my perspective on what is possible for a novel to achieve. It follows three characters as they deal with despair, betrayal, violence, and try to overcome these things. As the novel progresses, the three stories slowly start to connect together, and it builds such a wide and vast picture of what this world looks like that it feels so real. So those are all the books that I read this year. I think it was a good reading year, all in all. And there are lots of books that I'm excited to read in 2025. And please let me know a book that you loved this year and I can add it to my TBR for 2025. And I will see you in another video soon. Bye bye.